Paul here with Kinetico Advanced Water. I want to give a little bit of clarification. We get a lot of questions about different types of filtration and why and when they're necessary. Really, to keep it real general, there's three basic steps, three different stages of filtration. You've got particle filtration, which is basically particles that are typically 1 micron in size and bigger. Then when you get below that point, now you're into ultrafiltration, which is basically really small particles that are too small to be caught with conventional filters. And then when you get to the point where you need to start removing dissolved solids from the water, they're no longer floating around as particles, but they're actually dissolved in the water. Then you have to get down into reverse osmosis technology for what we refer to as purification. So we have this little chart over here to try to make things a little simpler. Most fridge filters and probably the smallest filter that you can find in a homeowner or even a supply house environment is this blue circle. It's represented by the blue circle here, and that's 1 micron. 1 micron is pretty friggin' small. The hair on your head is roughly about 100 microns. So we're talking about a filter that can catch something 100 times smaller than the size of the hair on your head. But to put this in perspective, depends on what you're trying to catch with this filter. This red spot shows how big some of the smallest bacteria are when compared to that 1 micron hole in the filter. So you could see that a bacteria has no problem going through a fridge filter. No problem going through any of that stuff you can buy at the online or at the local supply house. But it gets even more interesting. If you were to take that bacteria and you were to blow that bacteria up, the little gray spot inside there is actually 0.01 microns. And that represents the smallest virus. So if you can imagine, this little gray spot is inside this little red spot, which is inside this huge 1 micron hole. A virus has absolutely no problems going through a fridge filter or anything that you can get online. When you start getting down into this size, you're in the ultra filter category, because the ultra filters that we use, for example, has a 0.02 micron absolute rating and 0.01 micron of nominal, meaning for the most part it's going to catch 0.01, which is exactly about the size of the smallest virus. It's guaranteed down to 0.02, but you're not going to use that as your sole way of trying to filter out viruses. But if you were to take that really tiny virus and blow that up, you're going to see that little speck, you could probably barely even see that, but there's a little speck right in the middle of that. That represents the size of the pores in reverse osmosis. So they are so tiny, nothing's going to get through those. And that's why reverse osmosis can literally kind of separate the pure water from all the contaminants. We get questions a lot, as you might imagine, about why is the K5 drinking water station from Kinetico the best option for me? It's not the cheapest. Was never designed to be the cheapest, but it is by far the best. So the K5 starts off, by its name might imply, it's got 5 stages of treatment, which is super important because we've got stage 1, which is a pre-filter, which is customized whether you're on a well or whether you're on city or municipal water. Then the water goes through a membrane, which takes the water down to 0.0001 microns of filtration, effectively only leaving pure water getting through it. And then we have auxiliary filters. We call these our flex filters. And we've got many different options for those. We've got the Purified, which basically captures any pathogens that may be in the water that may have escaped through something. We've got the VOC guard, which specifically is targeted towards organic compounds like pesticides, paints, cleaning supplies, other things like that. We've got one specifically for arsenic guard, because even though the membrane itself is very effective against one type of arsenic, there is a special kind of arsenic that actually requires a little bit extra filtration. So yet another reason why you want a water professional to come on out and be able to analyze your water. If you have perchlorates in your water, we have a perchlorate guard. We've got a chloramine guard. About 40% of the U.S. municipal water supply is using chloramines now, and that is a mixture of chlorine and ammonia, and it is very tough to take out. We have a specific cartridge that helps with that, and it is gas. A lot of people have trouble really grasping the concept that you would really want to have a chloramine guard even though you have a reverse osmosis unit, because gases go right through a membrane. More on that in later videos. We get a lot of requests for minerals in the water. Even though minerals in your water are there for taste only, we do offer a Mineral Plus cartridge, which puts primarily calcium but trace amounts of magnesium back into the water for taste, because some folks aren't used to the taste of purified water, and it helps to smooth it out. We also have a special flex filter that it's called high purity. If you have a doctor or dentist office and you need an autoclave with perfectly lab pure water, we can achieve that with the drinking water system. It's not recommended to drink it once it gets to that level because it's more of an industrial process, but we do have a whole bunch of options available with flex filtration that nobody else has. The operational differences on the Kinetico K5 versus all of the competitors, one of the main ones is that all the competition uses a calendar to tell you when to change your filters. The Kinetico K5 on the post filter actually has a meter, and it counts how many gallons you use. And when you have consumed 500 gallons, it will actually drop a flow restrictor down in this final filter and slow your flow at the dedicated drinking water faucet down to a trickle. So it will tell you without you even paying attention that you've used your 500 gallons and it's time to change all of the filters except for the membrane. The Kinetico membrane, it has a 4-year warranty. If you do not have any other piece of equipment, if you have a Kinetico softener, the membrane is actually covered under that full 10-year warranty. Nobody else in the industry can even come close to that. The top part of this has a special configuration that will actually, we call it the EverClean rinse, but it will actually store up some purified water after a water making cycle and use that water to help clean the membrane so that it cleans the membrane after every cycle is done, and it stores the membrane in clean water, which is big because all the competitors have membranes that are stored in funk water, and that causes something called TDS Creep, which you can look up on the internet and find more about it. But we don't have that problem. That's why our membranes have 10-year warranties in most cases. There's so many advantages, it's not even funny, but the Kinetico K5 actually uses a hydraulic driven tank, not an air charge tank. So air charge tanks, kind of like tires, they will lose their charge over time. Very rare that you're going to find one that'll last more than 4 years. With a hydraulic driven tank, we call it water on water or WOW tank. It actually stores water that it makes in a bag in the center of the tank, and then it uses your own water when you open the faucet to squeeze that bag out. So you're using your own water pressure to squeeze your water out, which is great because this gives us a lot more distance. We can usually mount our K5 in crawl spaces, in basements, and in remote locations, and still be able to deliver without a loss of pressure like the air charge tanks have. It just crushes all the competitors, and the moral of the story is that you need a K5. If you're using anything right now, if you're drinking from the tap, we definitely need to help you, but if you're drinking from a Brita or a Pure or any of the other faucet mount options that are out there, you're not really taking care of what you think you're taking care of. You deserve better water, and the Kinetico K5 is the best residential drinking water system available.